Just do them for us, please. Anybody, anyhow. I mean, it's like the Quran is like, anyway, anyhow. No. Is that how we respect the Quran? It's like that? It's really not much. So, we plan. We're having an event. We're going to have somebody recite. Make sure that that person who recites is reciting with proper tajweed. So I've been to places where there are people get up there and they're butchering the Quran. You know, this thing should be, we have respect the Quran. Have it recited properly for people and make sure the verse is relevant and then give the meaning. So the Quran has brought some light into the hearts that are there. This is the point. So now, when we're going to get the Quranic verse for that class we're teaching, same principle applies. It should be relevant. It's not just about sticking a Quranic verse on the wall. Ayatul Kursi. No. Surah Yasin. You know, we have certain standard parts of the Quran, people just stick them everywhere. But this is not. This is not how we use the Quran. We have a class on photosynthesis. We get a verse on the leaves and how Allah created them and how they fall and how He knows everyone that falls, etc., etc. So we don't turn the class into a tafsir class. So you go into details, breaking down the words and the relationships and other related verses from across the Quran. You're teaching a class on photosynthesis. So teach the class. But just let the students know that even though you're talking about something which is only discovered 100 years ago, the Quran spoke about it, addressed issues concerning beliefs. So that is the point. Subtle. We just bring it in, it's on the wall for that particular class, then it's off the wall afterwards. You put another verse up which is relevant to your next class. In English, to find the verses, there is an English concordance of the Quran printed in Pakistan. That can be ordered. If you don't have the Arabic to search for it, then you can make a search with an English concordance. It's quite a thick book. It has been produced in Pakistan many years ago, maybe 20 years ago. There's an Arabic version. If you have Arabic, it's much easier. If you don't, you have the Arabic department, you can ask them, listen, I need the verses on so-and-so. There's a book, concordance, Al-Mu'jam al-Mufahras, the Al-Fadh al-Quran, by Fuad Abdul-Baqi. With great ease you can do it. Actually, with Sheikh Google, you can also do it. You can do it with Sheikh Google. You make that search. You can search in English as well as search in Arabic. Once you start doing it, at first you might feel clumsy, how, where, when, why, but after you do it a few times, you get the hang of it. It's very simple. You can pull the verse that you need. Similarly, that we added the Quranic verse. For example, you're teaching a class on health, sleeping etiquette. Then you bring the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ had forbidden us for sleeping on our stomachs. We should not sleep on our stomachs. Now in the past, people just didn't do it. Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ said, don't sleep on your stomach. They avoided it. Those who were practicing, they avoided it. In recent times, Western physicians, scientists, surgeons have identified that sleeping on the stomach is the major cause for what is called sway back. People, when they get old, they're bent over like that, they can't straighten up, sleeping on the stomach. Number one cause. So it does affect our health. Further research in the late 80s early 90s, showed that after analyzing the causes or the circumstances around what was known as cot death or sudden death syndrome, SDS, they found that the common factor, the most common factor of those children, those babies that were put to sleep at the age of 1 or 2 and don't wake from their sleep, they die in their sleep for no apparent reasons. Most common factor, putting them to sleep on their stomach. So in the late 80s, 89, there was a big announcement in the press in the UK for the medical profession to inform the people, do not put your children to sleep on their stomachs. That spread to the US. It also became major news across the country. And within 8 or 9 years' time, when they researched, cot death had dropped by more than 60%. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. So we try to introduce the hadith in the same way, the relevant part. We don't need to give them the whole hadith. Just give them the portion. If they're old enough to learn the Arabic and the English or whatever language you're teaching it in, you do so. If they're not, they just repeat it after you and you focus on the translated text. And the purpose is also to let them understand that the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ has relevance to their lives. Because the modern trend is that Quran, Sunnah is outdated. 1,400 years ago, life has changed. Society has changed. It needs to be modernized. This is the kind of talk that we hear from the modernists. But reality is that the Quran and Sunnah will remain relevant until the last day of this world. We have a book, Al-Mu'jam al-Mufahras li Alfaz al-Hadith, in Arabic, which you can help research relevant hadiths. And of course, Sheikh Google, the shortcut. If you don't know Arabic, etc., you can find it through there. The last principle, the fifth principle, is the moral message. This is the one which, if you're not able to get any other principle in your class, in your lesson plan, you make sure you get the moral principle, because that is the core. We said it's about bringing morality back into the classroom. So it means the moral principle should not be missed at any cost. But now when you're going to teach the moral principle, you don't make it a separate entity. You know, you have a piece of your class, you know, where you stop the class and say, okay kids, we're going to learn a moral principle now. No. You want to weave it into the class so it is something they don't feel like they're being preached to. You work it into the class and the classroom. So that moral message, based on the fact that the Prophet ﷺ had said that he was only sent to teach humankind the highest of moral character, the idea is that we try to give the students the moral message which is appropriate to their age. Because there's some things you're going to tell a grade 10, grade 11, 12, but you're not going to say to grade 1, 2, 3. The issues of a 7-year-old and 8-year-old is different than the issues of a 15, 16-year-old. They have some shared issues, yes, you can give to anyone, but then there's some which are most specific to the younger ones, to the elder ones. So you need to know which ones are better. This is where your child psychologist, you know, is very helpful. They can identify for you for whatever age you're dealing with, the most appropriate moral message to teach. And there are books which have spoken about it, like this book, Can We Teach Children to Be Good, by Dr. Strahan, and of course there's always Sheikh Google at the end of it all. Okay, so those represent the 5 principles. Again, the first was what? The classroom environment. Right? The second was historical relevance, relevant piece of information. A Muslim hero in whatever field. The third was Quranic verse. Fourth, hadith. And fifth, moral message. Inshallah. So, if these are applied, then you have an Islamized class without a shadow of a doubt. Every class you may not be able to apply all 5. You may not be able to find a historical figure. You may not be able to find a Quranic verse. It's not to say it doesn't exist, but you may not be able to find it. Same thing with the hadith. The first one is a lot easier. This is the environment, That's something ongoing, fairly easy to do. But if you can't get those others, just make sure you get that moral message. So, when you're dealing with the young people, you do it in stories. Or, certain behavioral things that are going on in the classroom, you correct them. It could be on the spot. You know what they're doing. So you're watching out for it, you catch it, and you correct it, but you correct it in such a way that all learn from it. So that is, inshallah, the basic 5. And tomorrow, inshallah, we will move on to practically Islamizing lesson plans. So each of you should bring some lesson plans for some subjects, whatever that you're teaching, and let us go through it together. You can make an attempt yourself, which is good. Don't just bring it and expect everybody else to do it. You make an attempt yourself. You've got the principles and everything. You try yourself. Then you come and you give it as you originally had it, and then we look together to see how we can Islamize it. You can add what you found, what you're suggesting, and we all can do it together, inshallah. I know that those who teach mathematics, how many are mathematics teachers here? Put your hand up. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, mathematics teacher, usually when I do this kind of workshop, they always are the ones to ask me, okay sir, how do you Islamize, 2 plus 2 equals 4? We'd like to know that one. How do you Islamize 2 plus 2 equals 4? Where's the room to do any of this? Well, the kids that you're teaching 2 plus 2 equals 4 to, how do you teach them? You teach them with stories, word problems. So you teach them that Ahmed was given 2 naira by his mother. He went to play football with his friends, and 2 naira fell out of his pocket. He went home, couldn't find his 2 naira. He cried, and his mother gave him another 2 naira. Ahmed's friend, Muhammad, who was playing football, he saw the 2 naira. he picked up the 2 naira. But he took it to Ahmed's home. And he gave Ahmed his missing naira. How many nairas did Ahmed have? He now has 4. What have you told in that story?
Honesty.
Honesty. Because the children at that age, they go on the principle, finders, keepers, losers, weepers. Everybody knows that one, right? So you just broke that right there. He didn't keep it. He gave it. And then what you add at the end of the story is that the mother also gave Muhammad 2 naira for being such a good boy. So you come on with how many messages there? In 2 plus 2 equals 4. Is it simple or not? And even if you have to teach, one of the things that you can teach, for example, you've got 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. But there are some people who say that 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 1. Who would say that? Yes, there are people. Beware of them. 3 gods in 1. You see? You show them logically. You imprint that on their minds. You know, it's clear. 1 plus 1 plus 1 has got to equal 3. There's no God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, 3 gods in 1. No. That's 3 gods. So even in your mathematics, you can be giving serious dawah. Inshallah. Okay, so we'll pause here and take some questions to end off our session. Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mustafa Masood. Of particular interest is this issue mentioned of trying to teach the kids the body parts. You know, you have a little child with boxers, shorts, and the rest of the aura is out there open. That's for primary. My own question affects the secondary school vis-a-vis the requirement for passing WAEC. I'll give a practical example. Our students start for external, the GCE, and part of the question had, there was this section of biology that's so much to do with reproductive health. And the teacher, who was a Christian, didn't teach that part because there were certain explicit things that were in the curriculum. So what happened for most of the kids, they failed that section. You know, so you have that challenge where the syllabus requires certain explicit explanations and diagrams and all that. And this is going to come up in an external exam, like how do you balance this sensibility? You want to maintain sensibility as well as passing the external exam. That's my...
Let us say that health education is important. We can't leave things unspoken of. There are books that have been produced. I know in the UK, because Muslims were challenged there, it's the same thing. Sex education. What do? So they developed textbooks which are appropriate for Muslims. So my suggestion is get a hold of those textbooks and use those. So you give the students sufficient information for them to be able to pass their examinations without necessarily going into the additional details which they have gone into. So you find what is the minimum. And it is our duty also to educate the children. The other option is that you prepare a manual which you give to the parents. Let the parents explain, so that the students don't, because the father and the mother, they know their children. Huh? They don't want to do it, but that's not the point. You have to tell the parents, listen here, this is actually your job. Right? This is your job. We're helping you. For you need to do it. Because imagine a teacher having to explain that to your daughter or to your son. It's better you do. Sister shaking her head. Huh?
It's a boarding school. Parents encourage
A boarding school? No, well, I mean, where you don't have access to parents, etc., then you do the best you can. As I said, you do the minimum, etc. But where it's possible to put that in the hands of the parents, let them do this job. Because, brothers and sisters, please settle down, please. In a sense, parents are not doing their job with their children. Because when children go off to get married, the mother doesn't tell her anything. The father doesn't tell him anything. It's whatever he picked up, that is circulating on the grapevine, and whatever she heard, from this one or that one or the other one, and then, it can be calamity. And parents are at fault. It is the responsibility of the parents to prepare the young people before entering into the marriage, to pass on what they know, to help them transition into a new circumstance with knowledge. So it's not just a big shock and surprise and, So I think this matter, I've given two solutions, inshallah, between them. It can help the students get through this area, inshallah. Further question? Over here?
My challenge is with regards to the issue of our young pupils. We have pupils in a purely Islamic environment, and they don't interact with non-Muslims within the environment. They spend the whole day there. So by the time they meet non-Muslims outside, maybe they might not know how to interact with them, because on our side, they're still young. We haven't taught them, we haven't gone into the issue of interaction with non-Muslims because of their age. They're just like 5 to 7 year olds. So the parents tend to blame the school in putting in, extremist ideas in their children's mind with regards to interaction towards their interaction with non-Muslims. But what I tend to explain to them is, we just teach them, at this level, we teach them to love Islam and hate kufr, but not kuffar. And to, so it's for the parents to guide their children when they behave in a matter they feel is extremist. So are we doing wrong not to introduce the issue of mu'amalat with non-Muslims at this level, or we still have time to move?
what are the concepts that we need to develop at those ages. Because loving Islam is one thing which they should be taught. Hating kufr is something which may be too complex for their age. To separate between hating kufr but not the kuffar, grade 1, grade 2, this is very difficult to distinguish. So my advice is the hate part, leave that. Love Islam, respect the others, but love Islam. When they get into middle school, high school, then you can introduce those more complex emotions and concepts. So I would say that if you build that fervor of hating kufr in little 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, I'm not surprised that the parents are saying, what are you creating here? Little Boko Harams. Well, the point is that if you are introducing concepts from the Quran, then you need to give them the clarity to ensure that they don't go off in extremes. You need to go over time to try to make sure, you can see potential as a teacher, you can see potential danger in a misunderstanding of this verse or that verse, then it becomes your responsibility that you make those things clear. So the parents, may be justified if these things are not made clear and their children start to make connections which you didn't make, but you didn't say anything, then they're going to blame you. Your name? Did you give your name? Oh, it's the same person? You asked before?
My name is Binta Babu from Darul Huda Foundation School. I'm a teacher. So I was wondering, I was going to ask this question about teaching the body parts. You said we have a picture of a naked boy or wearing just little panties with another message. So I want to ask, can we teach using the segmented body part images? For example, the thigh, the head, the arm. Can we use
No, I'm just saying,
image?
I'm saying put shorts on, which go down to his knees.
Okay.
That's the simple solution. The rest of the body is halal, you can see it. So in this area, from the navel to the knee, you just, you got that image, you just get the art teacher to go and put a pair of shorts on. Simple.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam.
I have a question. First, an observation. I want to advise the populace that it's also very important for us to always consider al-hikmah wal-maw'idha in dealing with our parents whenever we have a school. In the sense, someone said something about birthday and that issue. I want to advise that we are dealing with parents who wouldn't really understand very well the Islamic principles. Some of them are westernized Muslims. They decided giving their children to us because they think Islam is important, but they don't really have the content, the message of Islam. So sometimes it's good to send messages to them, we bring them very close, taking the message from the school down home. We should not only teach their children. Teaching only their children may not give us the results. Because when they get down home there, the parents will destroy what they've been taught. We have cases from our school, Sokoto there, a child using hijab in the school, and when it's Salah, the parents say, remove that hijab and let's go out. The girl continue to cry and that. So it's good we also send messages, enlightenment to the parents organize programs on Saturday with them, invite scholars such that their dawah, because we said it's ibadah, and dawah is part of ibadah, so that we take the message around all in all. Secondly, we are in Nigeria, where unfortunately most of the people that handles education are most of them are the kuffar. Materials we use are being prepared by Johns and Phillips, and of course in the nursery schools we need to use lines. I have a particular line here, I don't know if you allow me to play it. Sometimes we do have challenges in our schools when we are teaching children Islam. Some of them want to teach them phonics, but then we have to go through these lines like this.
Bring your bat and bring your ball, bring your bat and bring your ball to the
Just an example, there are other poems to our lines that has some beatings and the likes of that. I don't know what is the position of Doctor on that.
Music in general, where we're using musical instruments, is that it's haram. There's no exception made for the children in this case. You know, musical instruments, the guitar, the piano, flutes, all these instruments are haram. So we then need to develop alternatives. You know, there are anashid and things, and people have become now anashid artists who are producing. Some of them have gone into musical instruments too, so you have to leave them. But those that have remained with just the duff and the voice or clapping or something like this is permissible. So you try to find among them, or if there are people well known here in Nigeria, you pay them. You have a series of rhymes, you pay them, do these rhymes, produce the stuff, and you replace it. You know, bring your bat and bring your ball. I mean, we can do something else. Bring your prayer mat and bring your, you know, whatever. You know, we can, all this, we can replace it, you know, these type of things. We should have our own rhymes, etc. for the children. But I think that one's not so difficult. The first point that you're making, that was concerning, what again, what was that? Birthdays, yeah. You know, there are two approaches to this. One, as you're suggesting, that there should be regular parents, admin or teachers meetings. You know, where once a month or twice a month, you know, there are messages being given to the parents to let them feel that this educational process, they are playing a role, an important role. That they need to reinforce what we are teaching. So they need to upgrade their knowledge. You know, this is it. You know, so the parents are also engaged in the educational process. You know, at least one of the parents, maybe both can't come, but at least one of the parents, you make this a requirement for the parents of your students. At least one of the parents must come and attend this regular once a month session where you help them, you bring them useful information. You know, get a child psychologist to advise them in some areas or whatever. So they feel there's something worthwhile, not just preaching. Because, you know, of course they may get bored with that if you're just talking Islamic things all the time, every time. You give them things which are also Islamic, but just not openly and clearly, indirectly helping them. So this is one approach. The other approach, which is the selective approach, where the school interviews the parents of the students. And if the parents are not Islamically inclined, they don't accept the students. I know this is a tough one. This is a tough one. This is Dr. Zakir Naik's school. He tests the parents. If the parents don't meet up to this mark, he doesn't take them. I mean, of course, He's got, huge lines of people waiting, right? Now, we all maybe only have so many students, and, he said if we do that, we lose half of our students, the school couldn't function, all these other kinds of issues. But I'm just telling you, there are these two approaches. You maybe need to find a midway between them. That you should, to some degree, do some screening of the parents. Some people say, well, but you're now penalizing the students because of their parents. Give those kids a chance to, but you have to say, you have to weigh the harm and the benefit. If the parents you can see are just way out there, means this kid is going to be coming with bombs every day. He's coming, your school is, suffering. The children are suffering. You have to say, hey, better we keep this one out and save our kids, the rest of the kids. So, though you don't want to deny the child, you still have to look at the greater good. Where the harm is not containable, and for the sake of the rest of the school, the rest of the children, you have to let that one go. And again, if your concern is Islamic education, then this is the sacrifice that you have to make. It means, yes, profits are going to be less. Maybe you're only just breaking even, but you're breaking even and the children are learning at the best level that you can have them learn. That is far better than making nice profits, but we have these little time bombs in our school. Inshallah. Further question or comment?
My name is Farida Idris Ibrahim. And my question is basically with regards to the criteria with which Islamic schools should be evaluating themselves. It is not uncommon to see a child who has gone through nursery, primary, secondary education in Islamic schools who have no sense of Islamic adab, either in dressing, in the way they speak, in the way they think, in their thought process. It is extremely common in our society, and you find that in fact a lot of these schools that these children graduate from are supposedly some of the best Islamic schools that we have. And now my question is, Dr. Bilal, what is most important, what's the most important thing we as Islamic schools should be looking at? Is it academics? I mean, that's, when I say that, I mean when we're comparing ourselves to the strictly secular schools. Is it, it's the best school because the students are doing very well in academics, or should there be a difference in the criteria for evaluation simply because it is an Islamic school? And as you said, what is important to us is not strictly academic, because I've seen this severally. These are students who are supposedly went through an Islamic education, but there is no Islamic adab.
More of a comment rather than a question, right? You're commenting on a reality about which I spoke as we touched a number of the principles. When we said that the highest reward in the school should be for moral excellence. And we make a big thing of it. So-and-so did this, and we're giving them a prize for it. So children will compete for that. They will want to get a similar prize, to do some good. They will compete with each other in doing good. So yes, I agree that this should be our greatest concern. But we should not make that now a justification for poor academics. That's the point. that we should, since we're doing this thing systematically, we have a clear plan. It's not about financial gain. Then our academics should be at the highest. It should be up there. Because we have trained teachers, but the problem is if we don't have trained teachers, if we don't have the necessary components for a proper school, and we're just running a school, we call it an Islamic school, but yes, they're singing Islamic nursery rhymes, and they dress nicely, and all these other kinds of things. Even when they leave, they look dressed Islamically, and so and so, salam alaikum, everything is, but academically they're nowhere. Then that administration, that school has done a disservice to those children, those young people. Because we want them to be excellent in all aspects. We want it to be holistic. The educational process is a holistic process. So as they're excellent in morals, they're excellent in academics. They pay attention. They respect their teachers. They respect their fellow students. They don't use bad words. They speak in a nice way. They are people who make you proud, make your school proud. We're proud to say so-and-so graduated from our school. That's what we want. Because they are Islamically and academically at the peak. And this is something doable. Alaykum salam.
Doctor, you spoke about instilling Quran, that is in the children. So my suggestion, it's just a comment I want to make. I attended a Christian school, that's in my nursery school, and the first thing we do in the morning is you have to recite our Father who art in heaven, and till the end. So till today I cannot forget that. And if we can try as much as we can, at least Ayatul Kursi, before we start any class, we have to recite that. So if we can, as much as possible, for the kids to be able to recite at least Ayatul Kursi to start the day, which I think is going to go a long way.
Well, Ayatul Kursi is down the line, I'm not saying Ayatul Kursi is not important. It's important. We teach them that one at home before they go to bed at night. This is where Ayatul Kursi has been particularly recommended. But if we want our students, if we're going to teach them a surah from the Quran, then that surah should be Alhamd, Surah Alhamd, Al-Fatiha. This is number one. That the Prophet ﷺ said is the greatest surah in the Quran.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fatima Hamza, school head of Alamana Academy. I just wanted to add something to what the earlier speaker was saying, the one before the last. I think what she was trying to say was there are times that certain children pass through a school and that school is Islamic, so to speak. And then you expect that by the time they graduate, they have high, excellent moral quality. But when they get to higher institutions, they have nothing to show for that. So I guess, like what you were saying earlier, there are a lot of factors involved in training a child. There are teacher-wide factors, school-wide factors, and then the environment, and then the parental factor as well. This is what I believe. So they all come together to nurture the child. So there are times that you see the school is doing a lot in terms of that, but once they go back home, there's a lot of issues coming from the home. So the school sometimes does not get the whole child, unfortunately, but there are times that you get the whole child. So I just wanted to add, make a point to that.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Madam is another comment. Alhamdulillah, a lot has been said from the Sheikh and from the floor. May Allah reward everybody abundantly. from what I've heard today, I've got to know that there's a lot of challenges before the Muslim Ummah around the globe. A lot of challenges indeed. And we've been talking about Islamization of education. From what we are saying, we have certain impediments, especially from the comment of my job here, my neighbor, that there are certain things that you do, and if you stick to certain, issues that happen with Islam, when you come to the national examinations, still there are things that students cannot go into because of what you've done. This, of course, to me will lead to a struggle from the Islamic Ummah on how to bring about policies that will allow the Muslims to have exams that are in line with Islam or in line with their religion. And we can only do that when we bring up an Ummah that will go to the National Assembly and do so. This means that we have a lot to cover. If you have students, there is a need for awareness to the students on the challenges on ground. Most of the policies that we have on ground, the policies that we follow, are not policies initiated by Islam or Muslims. And they go against, the Islamic practice. You cannot practice certain things because of these policies. And these policies can be subject to change based on participation. If Muslims participate in these certain things, they can change them to suit their own religion people. And if they don't, others will be there to do so for them. So I think there's a lot on us, and we need to plan for that in the years coming up. Assalamu alaikum.
We need to focus on what we can do now. The later stages we work towards, we keep them in sight. I'm not saying forget them, but what we can do now, let us do. There are other schools like you around the world that I've spoken to, given lectures to, and they have committed themselves, their administrators, their principals, have committed themselves to working towards this goal. At least we try to do this much. We have part-time or partial solutions which will deal with the issue of sex education. But this issue of Islamization of education, this is primary. This is most primary. And we need to establish this. I've given a timeline. Next year, by the end of next year, we should be preparing our first standardized lesson plan manuals for the teachers here in Kaduna. And those that have come from other states to work with us. It is important that representatives create the network from now. We have a network online already, which is global. We have a website in which we are encouraging schools to upload material which could possibly help you in your own preparations, etc. What I would like to see once we finish off the workshop tomorrow, practical efforts to Islamize, is that the principals or heads of the schools that are represented here, you meet together, form a committee here for the lesson plan Islamization project. And you will need to assign people in each of your schools who are responsible to supervise, to follow up, make sure that the teachers do it. And you also, as proprietors and founders of schools, you also, knowing that you are now asking the teachers to do more than they were doing before, you are now obligated to pay them more. Right? This is the right of the teacher. You've asked them to do more, then you should also be willing to pay them more. If they do more. Yeah. It's conditional. Yes. Not just paying more just for the sake of paying more, but when that's why we have supervision, to ensure that people are doing what they have been instructed to do, what they're committed to do. If they do it, it comes in the form of a bonus or whatever, however you work it out in your school, but you should be prepared to give them additional remuneration for their efforts. And this becomes also motivation, not to say it is the only motivation, but this, when the people know that I work harder, it's being considered, I can earn more, this is motivation to do more. So I think that we need to lay solid foundations. If what I have presented to you, you agree on, it makes sense, it's doable, it's worthwhile, then let's do it. Inshallah. Inshallah, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we will begin the work on the lesson plans themselves. Inshallah. Okay, before going, there are 5 names. Could you just come forward, please? Alawiya. Salatu, is it? Huh? Huh? Salatu. Okay. Salusi. Huh? Salusi Isa. Okay, please just come forward, please. Mustafa. And Abu Bakr. Is there many Abu Bakrs here? Abu Bakr. Ramadan, is it? From Ramadan Academy. Huh? Is it Abu Bakr from Ramadan Academy? Huh? Oh, okay. Al-Anar. Okay, please come forward. Here we have 3. Oh. All right. To each of you is a copy of my book, personally signed, on Qadr, inshallah. You were the people who were the first to ask questions, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have a question.
I only had 5 books and they got this. Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum everybody. Finally comes to the end of today's session and we continue tomorrow inshallah from 10 a.m. Any other announcement? Nothing? Okay, thank you very much for your patience. I hope you all enjoyed today's session. Looking forward to tomorrow, I'm sure, inshallah.